Laila had always prided herself on her ability to handle the most difficult cases. As a successful lawyer, she had seen her fair share of gruesome crimes and unspeakable acts. But when she was approached by a wealthy businessman named Mr. Johnson to defend him in a high-profile case, she had no idea what she was getting herself into. The case involved the brutal murder of a young woman, and the evidence against Mr. Johnson was damning. Laila spent long hours poring over the details of the case, trying to find a way to exonerate her client. But as she dug deeper, she began to notice something strange. There were gaps in the evidence, inconsistencies in the witness statements, and strange occurrences that seemed to defy explanation. Laila started to feel as if she was being watched, as if there was something sinister lurking just beyond her field of vision. One night, as she was working late in her office, Laila heard a noise outside her door. She got up to investigate, but found nothing. As she turned to go back to her desk, she saw something move out of the corner of her eye. It was a shadow, dark and shapeless, that seemed to be reaching out to her. Layla's heart raced as she backed away, but the shadow only seemed to grow larger. It enveloped her, suffocating her with its darkness, until she couldn't breathe. Laila woke up the next morning in a cold sweat, unsure if what she had experienced was real or just a nightmare. But deep down, she knew that something was very, very wrong. And she couldn't shake the feeling that it had all started with Mr. Johnson and his case. Laila tried to shake off the feeling of unease that had settled over her since the incident in her office, but it lingered like a cold fog. She found herself jumping at every noise, and the nightmares she had been having only grew worse. In her dreams, she saw Mr. Johnson's face twisted into a grotesque, demonic visage. He beckoned to her with clawed fingers, promising her power and riches beyond her wildest dreams. But in the background, she could hear the whispers, the same language she had heard in her previous nightmare. When Laila woke up, she was drenched in sweat and gasping for air. The dreams were becoming more vivid, more real, and she couldn't ignore them any longer. One day, Laila received a package in the mail from an anonymous sender. Inside was a small statue of a demon, carved from obsidian. It was a grotesque thing, with wings and horns and a forked tail, and Laila could feel its malevolence radiating off of it. She tried to throw it away, but it kept reappearing in her office no matter how many times she discarded it. She started to feel like she was losing her grip on reality, like the demon was following her everywhere she went. Layla's colleagues started to notice that something was wrong with her. She was distant, distracted, and often seemed to be talking to herself. She tried to explain it away as stress from the case, but deep down she knew that it was something much darker. As the days passed, Layla's mental state continued to deteriorate. She started speaking in tongues, acting as if she was possessed by something beyond her control. Her colleagues were afraid of her, and she was eventually fired from her job. Laila was alone, with nothing but the demon for company. It whispered to her in her dreams, promising her power and control, but she knew that it was all a lie. She was trapped, and the demon had her in its clutches. Laila was consumed by fear and paranoia. She felt like the demon was always watching her, waiting for her to slip up so it could take control. She tried to keep herself busy, but the constant whispers and nightmares made it impossible to focus on anything else. One day, Laila received another package in the mail. This time, it was a book bound in black leather with strange symbols etched into the cover. Laila couldn't make sense of the text inside, which was written in a language she had never seen before. But she could feel the power emanating from the pages, and she knew that it was dangerous. Despite her reservations, Laila couldn't bring herself to get rid of the book. She felt like she was being drawn to it, like it held some kind of secret that she needed to uncover. As she delved deeper into the book, Laila started to feel like she was losing her grip on reality. The symbols seemed to swirl before her eyes, and she could hear strange whispers in her ear. It was as if the book was alive, and it was trying to reach out to her. Laila started to see strange visions, like she was peering into another world. She saw grotesque creatures writhing in agony, and heard the screams of the damned. But she couldn't tear herself away from the book. It was like an addiction, and she needed to know more. As she read on, Laila started to notice strange changes in herself. Her skin grew pale and clammy, and she felt like her body was no longer her own. She could feel the demon's presence growing stronger, and she knew that she was in grave danger. Laila tried to fight back, to push the demon away, but it was too powerful. She was trapped, and she had no idea how to escape. All she could do was wait and hope that someone would come to her rescue before it was too late. Laila's behavior became increasingly erratic as the demon's hold on her grew stronger. She started to experience blackouts, periods of time where she couldn't remember what she had done or said. When she came to, she would find herself in strange places with no memory of how she got there. Her colleagues and friends began to notice that something was seriously wrong. They tried to talk to her, to get her to seek help, but Laila was convinced that she was fine. She couldn't bring herself to tell anyone about the demon, afraid that they would think she was crazy. One day, Laila's boss called her into his office. He told her that her behavior was becoming a liability, and that she needed to take some time off to get herself together. Laila protested, but deep down she knew that he was right. She needed to confront the demon before it was too late. Laila spent the next few weeks researching the demon and trying to find a way to banish it. She consulted experts in demonology, read ancient texts, and even tried performing exorcisms on herself. But nothing seemed to work. The demon was too powerful, and it seemed to be growing stronger with each passing day. As Laila's mental state continued to deteriorate, she started to see Mr. Johnson's face everywhere she looked. It was like he was taunting her, reminding her of her failure to defend him. She could hear his sinister voice whispering in her ear, promising her that the demon would never leave her alone. Laila was terrified, but she refused to give up. She knew that she had to keep fighting, no matter how hopeless the situation seemed. She couldn't let the demon win. Laila's mental state continued to spiral out of control, and she was eventually admitted to a psychiatric hospital. But even there, she couldn't escape the demon's grasp. She saw Mr. Johnson's face everywhere she looked, and heard his sinister voice whispering in her ear. The doctors tried to help her, but they were at a loss as to how to treat her. Laila's condition was unlike anything they had ever seen before. She was unresponsive to medication, and her behavior was becoming increasingly violent and unpredictable. One night, Laila managed to escape from the hospital. She had no memory of how she had done it, but she found herself wandering the streets, lost and alone. The demon's whispers were louder than ever, and Laila could feel it pulling her towards something. She eventually made her way to Mr. Johnson's mansion. It was a dark and foreboding place, with twisted trees and overgrown hedges. Laila felt like she was being drawn into a trap, but she couldn't resist the demon's pull. As she approached the mansion, Laila saw something that made her blood run cold. It was Mr. Johnson, but he wasn't human. His skin was twisted and blackened, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. He was a demon, just like the one that had taken hold of her. Laila realized too late that she had been tricked into defending an evil entity, and that her own soul was now in danger. She tried to exorcise the demon from her body, but it was too powerful. In the end, she was consumed by the darkness, and became a vessel for the demon's evil deeds. Laila was lost to the world, a pawn in the demon's game. She was forced to carry out its dark and twisted plans, to do its bidding no matter the cost. And all the while, Mr. Johnson watched from the shadows, his demonic laughter echoing through the halls of his mansion. Laila was now a puppet of the demon, forced to carry out its bidding no matter how gruesome or heinous the task. She was consumed by the darkness, her soul lost to the world forever. The demon used Laila's legal expertise to manipulate the justice system, framing innocent people for crimes they didn't commit and ensuring that Mr. Johnson's criminal empire remained intact. Laila was powerless to stop it, forced to watch as the demon tore apart the lives of countless innocent people, but despite the demon's power, there was still a glimmer of hope. Laila's conscience remained intact, buried deep beneath the darkness that had consumed her. She knew that what she was doing was wrong, and she longed to break free from the demon's grasp. One day, Laila was given an assignment that was too much even for her. The demon ordered her to kill an innocent woman who had stumbled upon one of Mr. Johnson's illegal operations. Laila knew that she couldn't go through with it. She had to find a way to break free from the demon's hold. Laila started to research ways to banish the demon, to send it back to whatever hell it had come from. She knew that it wouldn't be easy, but she was willing to do whatever it took to regain her soul. After weeks of research, Laila finally found a way to banish the demon. She had to perform a complex ritual that would require her to sacrifice something precious to her. Laila knew what she had to do. She went to the woman that the demon had ordered her to kill, and confessed everything to her. The woman was understandably frightened, but Laila promised her that she would do everything in her power to protect her. Laila then performed the ritual, sacrificing her own life in order to banish the demon from this world. The demon's hold on her was broken, and Laila's soul was set free. As Laila's body lay lifeless on the ground, the demon let out a howl of rage. But it was too late. Laila had regained her soul, and the demon was banished back to the depths of hell. Laila had finally found the redemption she had been searching for, and her name would forever be remembered as a hero who sacrificed everything to save others. The news of Laila's heroism spread quickly, and her story became a legend. People hailed her as a martyr, a symbol of hope in a world overrun by darkness. The woman that Laila had saved became an advocate for justice, using her experience to fight against corruption and criminal activity. She knew that Laila had given her a second chance at life, and she was determined to make the most of it. Laila's colleagues and friends mourned her loss, but they also celebrated her bravery and selflessness. They knew that Laila had been consumed by darkness, but she had fought back with everything she had. She had shown a courage and strength that few could match. In the end, Laila's legacy lived on. Her sacrifice had inspired countless others to stand up against evil and fight for what was right. Her name became synonymous with bravery and heroism, a shining light in a world that had grown dark. And though Laila was gone, she would never be forgotten. Her memory would live on, a testament to the power of the human spirit and the unyielding strength of the human soul.